Good morning once again, and welcome to Business Half Hour here on Classic FM 97.3 station that plays every song you know. I am Ifai Atama.
And I am Bukola. It's time for Business Half Hour as usual. And our guest this morning is Abolore Salami. Remember, Business Half Hour is in partnership with Nairametrics. Good morning. How are you? And Loretta is joining us from Nairametrics as well. Good morning, Loretta.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Loretta.
Salam, how are you? Hello.
Hi, good morning. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
Great. Just to throw in that Abolore Salami is the founder and partner at Riby. Once again, welcome to Business Half Hour.
Hello. Can you hear us?
Don't be shy.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, apologies, my mute.
Okay, so we're going to start from the very beginning. Could you tell us what your business is all about?
Thank you again for having me. Good morning, Lagos, and everywhere else who's listening. Well, our business is primarily focused on. Do you want me to sort of like give you like a general overview of the business? Or?
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Okay, great. So we focus on helping individuals and groups essentially to, number one, let me say do three things. Number one is to create wealth. Number two is to preserve that wealth that they have created. Well, let me say those two things primarily, to create wealth and to preserve the wealth that they have created. And one of the things that were found as a very important, a few of the things were found as very important to wealth creation and wealth preservation, of course, is the job or the business you do. So we support salary earners, support small businesses, and also things like buying assets. Of course, owning a home, we think is the most important element of that wealth preservation process. So we're very interested in anything that helps people create wealth and anything that helps people preserve the wealth that they've created. And this is kind of like where the business started, or sort of how we started thinking about the business and the things and what has really driven our focus over the years.
So how long has this business been in existence, and what were you doing before Riby?
So Riby has been running now for 5 years. I think this is our 5th year, effectively. And for me, before Riby, I was okay. So before Riby, I've been in a number of businesses. So I mostly in an employee capacity. So I've again built my experience working in the media, working in renewable energy. I did a bit of management consulting, and then I did payments and energy management systems at the Venture Garden Group. So my last role before Riby was as the vice president of the power payment business at Venture Garden Group. Do you want me to go a little bit further into what I did there?
Yeah, I think we're good with this now. Loretta, you want to throw in something?
Yeah. On your background, what propelled you to starting Riby? I hear a bit of finance, of tech in your background. So what was the rationale?
I mean, so a couple of years ago, this was 8 years ago, actually, 2012, 2013. I was working in a media company at the time, I believe. And one of the key things that was very clear, working and earning a salary, was that it was very difficult to, so I say the path to wealth creation as a salary earner wasn't very clear. So one of the things that I kind of, okay, let me step back a little bit. Reverse all the way to 2005. I was at the uni and I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, a venture builder. Let me put it that way, right? So I kind of already knew the process of creating wealth, owning a business, and so on and so forth. So I had no doubt about the path of creating wealth. But thankfully, as an employee, I had a slightly different perspective. This is 2012, saying, hey, you can't build wealth by just earning and living on a salary and just going on a normal day and, not constructively thinking about how you're going to go from 9 to 5 to, your created wealth. And that was sort of what led to how do people go from anything, either going from a 9 to 5 as an employee or a business owner, in which case there's not much difference. There was a recent post about is it easier for an entrepreneur to save or is it easier for a 9 to 5 person to save? And having been both over the last 12 years, my biggest experience is that there's no difference between a business owner and a 9 to 5 or an employee, because a business owner should treat himself as an employee of his business. In which case, if he gets anything beyond salary, think of it as a big bonus. Right. So that was what led to how do we make sure that either you're a small business owner or a large, you're an employee, you can create wealth without having to, be a business owner that waits for that big bonus or that big sale of your company and so on and so forth.
So what are these forms of creating wealth? Because everybody loves wealth, and I think I want to create wealth too. So
Yes.
What are these? Tell us, how have you helped people to create wealth, and what are the forms this wealth creation have been in?
Fantastic. Well, so, when you ask it that way, it makes it sound like, we kind of take on the responsibility of helping people create wealth. We don't necessarily do that. What we do is look for the avenues to encourage or to support the wealth creation for individuals. And one of those, there's nothing fantastically new about the process of wealth creation. It's been the same for thousands of years. But I think that from my own experience, one of the things that have differentiated people have been, number one, the ability to find or sort of, harness your skill, what you really want to do, and number two, positioning in the right space or in the right sector. And I'll give an example of myself. One of the things I found myself very, very much interested in is venture building, right? Which is the process of, creating a new business, either from scratch or participating in already. All I've done pretty much for the last 12 years. And of course, as you know, as a venture builder, you can, like I've said, work in almost any industry. So that is what I focused on. But one of the things that I found to be exceptional these days is the ability to increase the number of people that have the right jobs. I love companies like Max, Max.ng, Tayo and Chinedu, fantastic guys, creating, and of course, similar other companies in that space, creating thousands and thousands of jobs and literally helping people, earn an income. Of course, there's a Babagona in the agriculture, Tribe Agri, also in the agricultural space, and a lot of companies that already existed. If we dial back to the original story behind Riby, which is based on the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, I realized that I haven't been on video. Maybe I should.
Okay, we see your face now.
All right, thank you. And what you find is that a lot of companies that are trying to I think it's very important to know that preservation of wealth is as important as the creation of wealth. And there are a lot of companies now doing well in that process of preservation of wealth. There hasn't been a lot before now that have consciously helped people to preserve wealth, so help people to save, help people to invest, regardless of either they have large accounts to get an account manager or a finance manager to help them run it. But then the creation of wealth process, again, I'm not sure we want to go so deeply into that because of the short time we have, but it's the process of really finding what you're really good at and what you can spend endless amount of time doing and creating.
So how do you make money?
How do we make money? How does Riby make money? We make money. So, we focus on building technology. That's the primary thing that we do. We build technology for, today, most people know us for cooperatives because we started with that. Today, we have two sides of our business. We have what we call the enterprise side of our business, where we serve large corporates, development banks, state governments, federal governments, small businesses, more on the enterprise space in building the right technology for them to automate the process of wealth creation or the process of so what you could call wealth distribution or accessing things that help people create wealth like credits and so on and so forth. And that's on the one side, on the enterprise side. On that side of our business, we make money via what you could call enterprise fees and let me say transaction fees, as it were. So we charge for every transaction that somebody does on the platform, or for deploying the technology. We charge nicely on that. Let me put it that way. And then on the retail side, where we focus on the cooperatives, individuals, and our agent network, we make money from transactions and also from user subscription fees when our technology is used for all of those processes.
All right.
Loretta.
Yeah, so this time from the cost side a little bit more. What are your cost items like, and how have you been able to fund the business, to be able to provide the services for your customers?
For startups generally, I think there are three major business areas. In quotes, let me put it that way: three major business areas of success. There's talent, there's capital, and there's market, or what you could call market forces. That's sort of the easy way for me to wrap my head around the things that we require. Talent today is our number one cost. Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, how do you get the best people? How do we pay our people well, and so on and so forth? Our talent is our first, one of our major costs. Next is technology cost, either hardware or software cost. And then of course, other things like office space, which is not a lot these days, thankfully. But then you have very interesting costs like cost of regulation, cost of security of our systems. We have data protection and regulation type of cost. And then very annoyingly, taxes can be a major drainer. Today, for example, we have tens of millions, let me put it that way, in withholding tax that we have not been able to apply to good use. That's a lot of money that we could use for our business in other ways. So those are, I think, our basic costs.
All right. Okay. Loretta, I want to say something. Go ahead.
Just to follow up, how have you been able to fund the operation?
Let me say we are 70%. Let me say we are 60% or 70% revenue funded. We're 20% venture capital funded, and we are 20% partner funded. We've gotten likes of Greenhouse Capital, EcoVC, CC up to back us from an equity standpoint, Careful Africa. We've gotten, of course, the majority, like I said, majority of our operations being from revenue primarily for the last 3-4 years. And we also have technical partners like Google, Efina, World Bank that have supported us in some form or shape with that funding.
So your staffing, what's it like? What does it require? And what's the strength? You're talking about the physical office, not having much space. So is the work done mostly remote, or what mode? How do you operate? So
we operate from our office space. We have an office space in Yaba. We have 2 office spaces. Like I said, we have 2 sides of our business: our enterprise business and our retail business. Interestingly, both sit in 2 different offices. We have about 50 people across the teams. We have quite a number of people that also work remotely. We have about 20-30 people that work completely remote sometimes. And then we work from the office, post-Corona, 2 to 3 days a week. Before Corona, we had something called Flex Friday, where most times we either work short hours on Friday, or we don't come to the office at all. That was before Corona. But with Corona now, it's quite exciting. We can work almost remotely for most of what we do.
How competitive is your space, and what sets you apart from the competition?
Well, we're in fintech generally, so fintech is very competitive. Has become very competitive in the last 3 years, as you know. There's a lot of players. There are a lot of players now getting into the space, and I think eventually what will happen is that it would not necessarily. So to be like the banks today, there's no difference between GT Bank and Unity Bank from a technical standpoint in terms of what they provide, financial services. The difference is, maybe the sexiness of what you get, the efficiency of the technology, the number of customers, the profit model or business model. I saw an analysis where, let me not mention the bank. One bank has 20-something million customers, but makes 75% of its revenue from 2,000 customers. That's not 20,000, that's 2,000 customers, because of their business model. So I think what will set anybody apart in the fintech space, I don't really think is necessarily just your tech or what you say you do. It's more of how you connect with the customer and the number of customers that you manage, and then your bottom line, right? That's really what will set people apart. And for us, we're not so much focused on competition. We're focused more on, are we delivering the promise that we're trying to deliver, which is, are we helping people get access to the financial services they need? Are we helping people get access to ways to create wealth, either through credit, or if, for example, they don't have the capacity to begin to grow their own business themselves, get them access to some type of development finance. And we've done that now for between 3 and 4 million people.
Interesting.
So, what kind of challenges have you faced? I mean, in terms of environmental challenges, having a business set in Nigeria, or even how COVID-19 affected your operations, and how have you been able to mitigate them, of course?
Environmental challenges. So you're talking about things like, let me talk about COVID, since that's easy, and then maybe you could clarify around the other challenges. In terms of COVID was a big concern for us from the perspective of, should I say, our physical operation. So there are a part of our business that is very physical, where people have to, like our agent network, for example, or some parts of our business where we have to meet our customers. Because like I said, we do quite a bit of deploying technology for our customers. So that part of our business was somewhat affected. But when it comes to the digital part of our business, we've actually seen a lot of growth. We've seen a lot more people want to go digital, especially our enterprise clients. We've seen, of course, a lot more, even some of our retail clients, of course, there's been a lot more adoption of digital, right? So COVID significantly affected our revenue last year. We were going to cross significant 7-figure revenue, but COVID delayed that. But I think we're back on track thanks to that now.
So in the course of carrying out your business, talking about wealth creation and all that, how have you dealt with your clients? What are the challenges you have actually met in dealing with clients? And how well have you been embraced?
So I think because we've been mostly B2B and B2B2C, not so much of B2C.
Okay.
We've seen a lot of very direct human interaction. We've seen, again, our business has been very, like I said, B2B, B2B2C. So we've seen our customers being the source of our growth in different ways. Either they're saying, hey, can you make the application do this better? We have a lot of requests right now around the ability for people to invest more using our platform, either as a group. I mean, we have one of our groups that less than 200 people, and they've done over 100 million naira in loans, right? And this is their money. This is their own savings. They have hundreds of millions in savings, and they've done hundreds of millions in loans. And I say, hey, Riby, help us be able to invest our money more and with a lot more ease, right? So we're seeing users being the center of our growth, the center of our correction, if I may put it that way. And we're trying to pay more attention to our users in terms of how we grow.
Let's talk about penetration now. The fintech penetration in Nigeria, are we there yet?
Fintech penetration in Nigeria, I think more from the financial services angle. There's still, I don't know, 20, 30% of Nigerians that don't have the kind of access that they need to financial services. And there's a lot more work to be done there, both from the perspective of the cost effectiveness of them participating in that, in the system, as well as the benefit that they are getting, right? So that we need to close that gap, more importantly. But I think the inclusion that I'm more concerned about is less, or the penetration that I'm more concerned about is less the fintech penetration or the financial inclusion or financial services penetration. I think agent banking is going to do an amazing amount of work in terms of distribution of last mile services. even way more in the short term than what internet, in quotes, internet banking type, USSD banking type services has provided. But I think the inclusion or the penetration that I'm more concerned about is economic growth. How do we ensure that somebody in Kaduna, of course, I mean, I don't want us to dive into things like security, but more things like, how do you ensure that someone in Kaduna has the right amount of seedlings, the right amount of fertilizer to grow his farm, and to make sure that he's doing the right thing? For example, how do we ensure that someone has access to the right home that they need? Owning a home for us is one of our critical instruments of wealth preservation. And we think that everybody should be able to, in a 10-year period, get access to the home they own. How do we ensure that people can get those economic and wealth creation actors? I think is the bigger concern for us than is fintech well penetrated.
All right, so how do government policies affect you? Hello? Policies, government policies, are they being friendly?
Yeah, I'm finding this the nicest way to explain that. So the government is like the rails, that everything works on, or let me say regulation and policy. So it's like, when you are going, you're a train and you have to go on the rail. If the rail is railed, the train is not going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So I think that sometimes the policies have been there to even make us exist and to make us thrive in a sane environment where criminals are not pretending to be business people. So I think they'll give it to government for that, for creating those environments in the first place that has created some sanity, the central bank, the stock exchange, and so on and so forth. But there are some of those policies, especially very recently, that are becoming very stifling. Less for us, actually, but more for the industry. And we are working on, I happen to be part of a few people working on, supporting that process of making sure it becomes smoother.
So don't you have a moment of dialogue with the policymakers for them to see the reasons why this ought to be this and that, before certain decisions are taken?
So as an industry, we're working on something very close to that now for the fintech industry generally, to have a sort of a regulator fintech industry dialogue process. And luckily, I happen to be very close to that process, and it's ongoing. It's still at the very early stages, but it's ongoing for the fintech industry.
All right.
Okay. So assuming over the next 10 years, we say there's more financial inclusion, the market, your target market essentially gets bigger. What's it going to be like? So where do you see your company next 10 years in a world where there are more people in the services, that's enabled? Yeah.
So I'll talk about that from a vision standpoint. The vision that we saw, that we anticipate, and the reason why we're working hard at our company is the vision where, as a group, as a team, as a company, as a business, we can support 10, 20, maybe 50 million people to access financial services easily, to save, to invest, to operate as a group or succeed as an individual, to get access to credit they need, to buy the home they want, and so on and so forth. And again, like I said, we are focusing on this as a technology provider, and not necessarily as an all-in-all for everybody, but as providing the access for people to be able to do this very conveniently. So that future is where I see a future where 10 years from now, we've supported hopefully tens of millions of people to get the financial services they need. And more importantly, I want to see that we've been able to say somebody has gone from what we call 0 to 1 and has created, essentially built wealth or created wealth for at least one generation, preferably 2 generations. That's the kind of future that I would like to see.
Talking about your future and your plans, let's assume that there's someone out there who's listening to you right now and who keys into your future plans. How does the person reach out to you?
The easiest public channels. Oh yeah, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not banned in Nigeria, so yes, LinkedIn is the easiest way. The other easier ways, one of the other easier ways has been banned. So the one that is very easy is LinkedIn. But you could also send me an email, salami@riby.me. Easily, myself and my team will pick it up, and we will definitely take it from there. We've seen a lot of partnerships and a lot of support as well. So we welcome all of that, as well as a lot of customers.
What about a website?
riby.me, 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 yes.
So you're open to investors and you're open to create wealth?
So if anybody wants, we're open to investors, absolutely. But more importantly, if anybody thinks, hey, I'm trying to, get 100,000 people access to financing they need, or 1 million people, and I just need the technology to help me do that very easy. That is really where we come in to provide. So we're open to all of those type of processes, either from a partner standpoint. We have investment companies, stock, the stock exchange, and also speaking as well in different capacities. People doing stocks investment, people doing housing investment, people offering credits, and so on and so forth. So we're open to various partnerships, customers, and investors. And also even things like state governments. We can't exclude the important role that the government plays in the process of helping people create wealth. And we have not shied away from that. We've supported quite a number of federal and state initiatives.
Loretta.
Okay, just assuming there is somebody who wants to work for you, what kind of person would you say you're looking for? What kind of talents does Riby attract?
Well, our team is broken down into two broad segments. There's technology and there's business. More scarce, so we're faster in engaging technology roles, but then definitely we're open to roles in sales, especially enterprise sales. We have a lot of very good relationships of people who are trying to create wealth and they need the technology to do that. We're very open to that. And of course, from a technology standpoint, front-end developers, back-end developers, mobile application developers. We have great designers on the team. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to be challenged a lot. Yeah, we're open to.
So what talent actually drives your business more? What kind of talent drives your business more that which you actually seek for?
Today we are 40% tech. 40% of the team is on the tech side, and 40-50% tech. Right now, if I say on the scale of priority, what are we looking for the most? We're looking for ambitious female managers.
Okay. So yeah,
very specifically.
Female managers.
Yes, very ambitious female managers.
Why female?
Because the men are too hungry. There are too many men all showing too much energy. We want to see more women showing a lot of energy. Yeah, more so because I think that women are more productive.
Really?
Yeah, from my experience, working in the last 10 years. Yes. With a lot of mental and personal data.
Story.
Women are more productive.
Story.
Beef.
Right. We don't need to beef it. It's just what it is from my own personal experience.
Okay. Before we go, because time is not our friend, tell us, what's that mantra that keeps you going? When you see challenges, that wakes you up in the morning, just says, okay, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think much about that. There was one very important one that came to mind, and that is what my dad always says. My dad is one of my biggest inspirations. He's late now, but he started as a regular ad worker, literally in your informal sector, and he ended with resources that I know professors. I walked past professors in my school wishing they had half or a quarter of what he had by the time he passed, and it was a driver on Obafemi Awolowo University campus when I'm sure most of them were students, right? But then they were professors that they didn't have a quarter of what they had. So in terms of what drives me or what keeps me going every morning, it's one of his very important things. And it's very simple, but very powerful. And this is it. It says that there is no hurry in life. That's how it says it. There's no rush in life. Like, where are you rushing to? Just take your time, articulate your plans, and slowly but surely build towards it every day. It doesn't matter who is succeeding now, or if you are a $1 billion company, or if you're a $1 million company, or you have no company, or that you don't have a job or you have a job. Just be clear about what you want to do and just chase it steadily, slowly but surely. That I think is the most important thing that keeps me going every day. So I never get so worried, and I've seen myself go from small income to millions of dollars in revenue. So nothing to worry about. The future is very bright. No worries. Just take your time. Enjoy the process.
All right. Thank you very much, Abolore Salami, founder and partner at Riby. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure having you here this morning.
Thank you. And special shout out to my team. This has been a great team effort. My partners, Tosi, who's driving our retail business, John, and the rest of the team. Fantastic people I work with. None of this exists without them. So thank you.
Great.
And our investors, of course, and customers.
Of course. Loretta, you want to throw in a few words before we go?
That's it. Thank you so much for joining us on Business Safari, brought to you by Nairametrics. See you guys next week. I think we're definitely out of time now.
Yes, we are. All right. Remember, Business Safari comes your way every Monday morning here on Classic FM 97.3, station that plays every song, at 8 o'clock and runs all the way till 8:30. We'll take a short break now. When we come back on the other side, some more TCMS for you.